I love technology as long as it cooperates. It is my pleasure to once again talk to our old friend,
Oh,
Mercedes Lander. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm so glad to hear you're wonderful. I'm pretty wonderful too. It's been a week, but it's a good day today. And it's a good day because we're talking about the release of your new EP for the
Yeah,
White Swan,
yes.
Nocturnal Transmission.
Hmm.
And I know you were just saying before we started, it was in the works for a minute. We haven't actually had the chance to catch up in a few years, so you'll permit me to ask a little bit about how you put the project together. I'm super interested in. You've actually had like a spate of releases over a couple of years, which is really interesting, and I'm just happy to catch up with you.
Awesome. I'm here to answer any of your questions, any and all.
Well, all right then. Before we dive into this EP and unpeel the layers of the onion, if you will, I wanted to ask, how you put this project together. It's basically a trio. You're doing double duty, a triple duty, singing, guitar, writing, drums, all the things. So let's hear about like sort of how you brought forth this project and where we are now.
So, in I would say 2011, I joined a power pop band from town called the Alcoholies, and I was playing drums. And Alcoholies were definitely like they were a power pop band. And So I played drums for that band for quite a bit of time, up until about 2016. And after Tanya had left the Alcoholies, who anybody that knows anything about Kitty knows that Tanya was the first bass player of Kitty. It's just like we're all the musicians in town are very ancestral. But I digress. So we ended up replacing Tanya with another bass player. Her name is Kira. And when things started to slow down with the Alcoholies, I was like, man, I just like I have so many songs like in my meat locker. I just need to get them out at this point. And because I was starting to go a little crazy, because that is a really long time for me not to write any music. It was a couple years. So, and like for me to actively just like barf out songs, because I usually they just come out pretty quickly and rapidly. So one day I was just, sitting on my couch and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start a band. I had all of these songs and I had written all of these songs and I started to actually play them. And I'm not a great guitar player by any means, but uh, the the framework was there. And then so I had messaged Kira and I was like, hey, you want to start a band? And she was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay, so so I've already saved the domain and this and this and this. And Kira's boyfriend at the time, Shane, who they are now engaged, and they actually had to cancel their wedding because of COVID-19. So they should be married. So basically, they're married anyway. And I was like, hey, does Shane want to maybe play guitar in this band? Because at that point, I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do in this band, but I know like the framework is there. And I know for sure I'm going to be playing drums in some capacity and other instruments. So, and she asked Shane because he was sitting beside her and he said yes. So I was like, okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to send you some voice notes, riffs, and then I'm going to come over and we're going to demo them because Kieran and Shane both are engineers. So they both went to recording school here in London years ago. And so we went over, opened up Logic, and we just basically set out the framework for our first EP, Anubis, sitting on their couch, and like with really bad like predicted drummer stuff, the internal stuff for Logic. So anyway, that was basically the framework of that. We went and we recorded with a friend of mine. His name is Al, and we had never even played a show or anything like that. After we had demoed like the full structure of the songs, and then like and Kieran and Shane had come over and we played them through a couple times, and then we went to Al's, recorded in Anubis, and that was our first EP. It was pretty exciting.
Word, I love it. And yeah, I mean, I love these releases, and this new one is definitely kind of another step forward for you guys. And I love the songs. I think "Purple" is probably my favorite song on the new record. I don't, it's so catchy and heavy. I think that's the thing that's probably missing from a lot of sort of doom metal or sludgy doom metal is just melody. It's always in the guitars and it's never really in the vocals. So it's great to hear you kind of incorporate this in.
I like so I'm a weirdo when I write music. I always uh there's a lot of things that I keep in mind when I write a song, and the biggest thing is I have to write in my vocal range because it's limited. And two, you have to or I have to write in a range that's going to lend to melody and lots of it. Um because of the way that I record vocals, there's a lot of layering and there's a lot of things underneath things, if that makes sense.
Totally.
So when you put those headphones on, you're hearing different things. You're hearing things that you may not have heard when you were listening in your car, basically. So I keep those things in mind when I write a song, and it's almost like I want to write a song that I'm like, I want this to be the most radio friendly song, but at the same time have it be super heavy and super catchy. So basically I want to write catchy music that's heavy. So that whole contradictory thing, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, that's all music is really a study in finding the two things that excite you and, juxtaposing them against each other, right? And I know that it's very, I'm sure, I don't really look at anybody else's interviews, but I'm sure just, it's not like, it shouldn't be this way, but I know that, for a lot of women in doom and heavy metal, who are vocalists, there's like a lot of very tropey stuff that people bad journalists, I'm not one of them, but they're out there and they fall back on these things. But what I hear like a lot of cool stuff in this band, not just you, but like I hear like a lot of Woods of You Pray, like a very like moody gothy doom. And I love, and obviously, to me, whenever I hear super heavy guitars and very catchy stuff, I think of Typo. I think of Typo Negative, which I hear,
I'll
without the keyboards.
take that. I'll take it because
Yeah,
I definitely I'll take it. Just because Typo is just one of those bands from my youth, when
mm,
I was a kid, that like they're amazing. One of my most favorite bands.
right on. Just as a side note, I don't know if you know, Kenny and Johnny have a new band, Silver Tomb, that is awesome. And I highly recommend it. If you're a fan of Typo, you will love this band.
Oh, good. This is I've heard of them. I haven't checked them out yet though. I'm terrible with new music. I'm like, what is this? I'm just gonna
Nice.
I'm just gonna sit here and listen to my like 70s playlist.
Whatever gets you through. We'll circle back to the '70s playlist. I'm interested now in that. But I obviously I know you to have a very wide array of music that you like your '70s playlist and other things. But were there certain bands when you started this? You had this sound in mind. Were there certain bands that you kind of gravitated to as a source of inspiration?
Not really. I just kind of knew that I wanted things to be super slow. And originally, we were in a different tuning, and we were actually, and then we just ended up dropping everything down to A because I was like, you know what, go big or go home. um, but uh, but yeah, there wasn't really like a band there that I was like, oh, I want to sound like this. I feel like I do, it's pretty obvious what my influences are though. And I don't like in like songwriting, not necessarily the way the White Swan sounds, but in songwriting, it's I feel like, and the way that like content and the way that I sound and like the vocal the way the vocals are structured in the recording, I just feel like it's pretty obvious. Like but we'll talk about that 70s playlist and then maybe it'll start to make sense to you.
All right. Well, let's do it now. Let's hear about this. What are your '70s jams? You go to artists on this playlist.
So my I feel like the White Swan is actually named after a T-Rex song. So like for the last couple years, I've been really into a lot of the British 70s rock music. So like lots of 70s ELO. So you can when you listen to White Swan and how the vocals are structured, that's like there's so much ELO in there. And then Sweet, there's so much vocal harmony in common with Sweet and the White Swan. And then obviously just Mark Bolan is a maniac. But yeah, so I just feel like there's not really a whole lot for me personally with the way that I write songs. There's not really a lot of influence that's now in the present, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally. Well, you gotta, whatever inspires you, you gotta go with that and see where it takes you. And not everything is a bunch of modern bands that all want to be those bands anyway. I mean, everybody wanted to be Mark Bolan, like even in the '80s, they still, Guns N' Roses, the whole Sunset Strip, every worldwide glam rock band was dying to be T-Rex. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Well, that's for sure.
and I'm actually a big Yellow fan. I grew up hearing a lot of Yellow. I think my mom took me to see Xanadu, which is the roller skating movie with Olivia Newton-John, and they did the entire Xanadu soundtrack is Yellow, and it is phenomenal. I'm
So
not even playing.
So speaking about like Jeff Lynne and like the amount of shit that he did in like the 80s and 90s. So if you like listen to anything Tom Petty, like you and then you listen to Yellow, you can tell that he like had his fingers in there. Same with like the Traveling Wilburys, like
Yep.
all of that stuff. It's just like, oh, this is clearly a Jeff Lynne song. It's crazy. The older I get, the more I notice like how I can identify. I'm like, oh man, that sounds like Prince wrote that song. And then I'll go Google it and I'll be like, oh shit, that is a Prince song. Is very interesting how that kind of stuff. There's and everybody like that from that era that really wrote a lot of songs for people. Like it's kind of cool that like, you can kind of pick that out now. Like as I get older, I can definitely pick it out. It's super cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, growth. You learn, you grow, And yeah, I really dig this EP. I know you talked about slow music, right? But it's still captures you. I think it's got a lot of stuff to hang on to, not just the melodies that I mentioned. There's some really cool drony guitar stuff that I love. And obviously anybody that, some very good beats there, some good rhythms, some good bass. So the structures of good song is a good song, whatever the genre is or whatever the inspiration is. So I'm digging this EP.
Good. I'm glad you like it. That was the goal. Like I want like a 55-year-old man to listen to it and be like, well, it might not be my cup of tea, but it's catchy. Like that's the goal. Like I want old people to like my music.
Right on. There's no room for elitist in any musical genre or scene. You've had to deal with enough of that in your career. Um, telling you what you can belong to or you can't. I'm super glad that you and you Morgan fought against a lot of that stuff coming up. But I also wanted to talk about this artwork because I love this artwork. It's very like Roger Dean, weird. Four moons. I don't know what four moons would do to your body, being like 90% water, or the Earth, or any planet you were on. But wanted to ask about this kind of lone figure in the desert, also looking at four moons. I don't know if that's a hallucination or just an awesome piece of art.
So how do I explain this? So I came across this image on Instagram. There is an artist named Caitlin Gerbenstein, and I saw this image and I was like, oh my god, if I could. And like this was like months before. I think I want to say that I ended up contacting her before the EP was even recorded. So I had wrote her and I was like, I really love this image. Can I have it? Like, I'll give you money. And she was like, it just so happens that this image has not been used for anything, so you can have it. And I was like, this is amazing because it completely, that image, like the record had been written, um, but so it completely falls in line with what the theme of the EP is. It's like staring into the unknown. So and I was like, oh, this is so fitting. This artist who clearly is super talented has I feel like channeled my like brain. So and I don't even know her. But anyway, so I ended up buying that off of her, and I'll probably end up using her again for the next EP.
Amazing.
Because she like legit was so easy to work with. She's super cool. If anybody wants to follow her on Instagram, it's cult.class. But yeah, she's an amazing artist and she did an amazing job. And I didn't even have to tell her what to do. It just appeared magically.
The best kind of thing. We will also link Caitlin's work in our
Awesome.
interview here so people can find her and follow her and show some
Oh
love.
yeah,
And
I'm sure
maybe
you'll enjoy
and
that.
maybe hire her for something also in the meantime while you're writing your next thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it goes without saying that 2020 is a strange fig as far as a year is concerned, and I sincerely hope you and your family and all the band's families and friends are well. It's just such a weird time. Um, Obviously you said you had said offline before we started here that you had some trepidation, you didn't quite know what to do about releasing music. I'm so glad you did, and I'm
Mhm.
glad, and anybody, you've been a DIY artist, you've been a major label artist in your life, so anybody who decided like, oh, I can't put this record out right now and I'm going to just lay back and chill and see what happens, all respect, I understand, but if you did put a record out like you just did today, I'm glad you did. So good stuff there. And obviously, I don't know where you're at, if things are opening back up yet, and if there's any talk of shows or if that's even possible right now. But I'd love to see you go out and perform this thing.
So, where we are right now, we are in really good shape. So we're averaging like 0 to 6 cases a day,
Wow.
which for our area is great. But since school started, things have started to kind of because all of our schools open, our restaurants we're pretty much open. We're open. Except there is a mask ordinance. So um we're a little concerned, like everybody in the country right now is a little concerned about because our numbers have started to rise again, and especially in our province because of school and everything like that. There may be another round two of maybe going back to phase two, but I feel like our government did a really good job of flattening the curve initially and putting the cap on it, where in our province we were having last month maybe like less than 100 cases a day, which is really good. So we'll probably not have live shows anytime soon, which is kind of sad. But, there's still hope.
Alrighty. Well, your government did a better job than our government, so applause to you,
Oh,
my friends from the north.
I'm not judging.
No, I am, and I can,
I
and
New York really did not have a great first little bit of it, and it was, when things were very, because I have a lot of friends, close old friends that live in the city in and around in the different boroughs and in New Jersey and just outside of the city. And believe me when I say that everybody was fucking terrified for you guys. And I am so glad that things have started to kind of look a little more positively. But again, it's one of those things where Like, I just I just don't know. But I'm very happy that things are looking a little more positively. 'Cause that was, pretty scary. We were all very scared for you guys.
Same. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I don't want anyone to be, this is just a weird time. And then there's other stuff also, just the whole state of the world. So, like I said, I'm grateful for music. It's been a help for me to
Oh,
have stuff to talk about and cool people to connect with and listen to music and have a purpose besides all the bad news. But on the plus side, since we were all kind of quarantining and locked down and such, what have you been beside making music and beside working on getting this record ready to come out? What have you been doing to kind of keep yourself entertained and sharp?
well, luckily, I, work from home already, so, I, have been working this entire time, which is very sad because I know a bunch of people that, initially, you know, uh, you know, well, it's not sad for me, but there were a lot of people that ended up getting laid off, which is not cool. But I ended up working through all of it. But other than that, I've just been writing more music and stuff like that. Like just really working on my house too because it's a piece of shit. Um, and doing lots of yard work and going to work every day, staring at a computer screen. And just like I know for the first little while it was really super depressing to like, I didn't leave my house I think for like 6 weeks straight. Super depressing, but everybody seems to be and I know with Kira and Shane, the same thing. Kira works for one of the bigger banks here, so she was lucky, and now works from home as well, which is kind of nice. So it's always nice when things work out like that. But it's just you know, there's still still so much uncertainty right now. But regardless, we're super happy, and I know that I'm super happy that I at least had the ability to be able to write music through this entire thing. And I think that was really important for me to keep me sane.
Right on. That's what we need. As you hear the sirens behind me.
There we go.
Like
We talked about
like
this.
clockwork. Yeah, like clockwork. Um, Brooklyn's got a Brooklyn, yo. But I know as we wind this down, I want to give you back your time, and I'm super thankful to get to chat with you again. I know that Halloween is your special time of the year, like it is for me. So as I cling to a sense of normalcy, I'm sure also you are too. Any cool Halloween rituals? Do you watch like your favorite films all of October, like I plan to?
So I think I want to say that Halloween here is canceled.
Hmm.
It's very sad. But if it's not, I don't like don't quote me on that because I don't have children. But and I feel like somebody that was a mom would know more about that. Um, I really always look forward to having the kids show up to my house and me give them candy. Like that was one of my most favorite things when Halloween was a thing. Which I don't think it is this year. So I always made sure to like, stock up with like the best candy. I want kids to think that my house is the best house. And other than that, just there used to be an annual Halloween party that I would go to every year, hosted by sometimes it's hosted by one person or another person, but they're both friends, so they kind of flip flop. But for the month of October, I think spooky movies start now. Like the leaves are dropping off of the trees here, so anytime that starts to happen, that's when I start watching the Friday the 13th uh, movies.
Nice. Now I know that's your jam. What did you think of the last one? I loved it personally.
I didn't watch it. The
Okay.
the super dark one that came out. Like, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
shot really dark. That's a lie. I did see half of it. It was in a drive-in, and it was shot so dark, I couldn't see it. So I
Right.
left. And I was like, I'm gonna watch this when I can actually see what's going on. And then I never did because, but I'm kind of like I'm definitely a purist when it comes to those types of movies. So I feel like I'm going to be disappointed if I watch it.
Right
Uh,
on.
but yeah, no, never watched the new one, not the full one, not the entirety of it, because it legit was filmed so dark, and I'm sitting there in my car in a drive-in, and I'm like, I can't see what's going on. I can only hear things. This is terrible. Um, but yeah, so probably end up watching 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll skip we'll skip 5. Uh
Everyone skips 5.
maybe
Sorry.
6 too, but 7 is okay and 8 is hilarious.
Yeah,
So
yeah, some of those later ones are bad, but they're funny, so you still watch them
for
anyway.
that kid, like Jason Takes Manhattan when he
Ugh,
punches that guy's head clear off of his body.
yes,
Uh that's the best part of the movie.
it is. It is. It was thoughtfully done, at least, and I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I'm gonna do my best. I may just decorate my own little space here, and even if we can't give out candy, because it just seems unlikely, and there's no. I know we already canceled the big parade here that we always have in the East Village, but or the West Village, but yeah. We'll do our best. I'm also gonna do the same. It's like as soon as the temperature dipped down, like from gross and uncomfortable to manageable, it was time for some slasher films. So
And
that's
my
what I like.
favorite part about this time of year is the fact that I can shut my AC off and I can open the windows. But I have sketchy neighbors, so
Oh, okay. Well, be careful, and stay
make sure all the windows are locked when I go to bed. That's all.
right. I got you. Well, be safe. Keep your head up. Thanks again for this record. Thanks again for chatting. It's been too long. I hope we get it all back and we get you on tour for this project again, because I think this is a release, especially the last few, but this one also. I'd really love to hear this stuff live. So.
I would also love that. So, anytime, whenever the world decides to let us, play live again, um, I will be there. And hopefully America eases up their visa restrictions.
Oh man, not only eases up, but I don't want to end on a bummer note, but yeah, like we just decided last year they went up in cost and now they doubled for next year, which is ridiculous, especially for DIY artists. Or any artist. It's just
Yeah.
stupid. We
Well,
need, it's just unbelievable.
the thing is to come here to play, there is no charge because we want you guys to come in. We like the arts. So,
Canada, Canada's rad. It's always been good to me. I've visited many times. I was a frequent visitor at one point, and
where did you
my
end up
ba-
going?
I have been to a lot of Toronto and Quebec,
Uh,
and around Quebec. I used to go to the Trois Rivières. I said that badly, I'm sure. Metal Fest. So
yeah,
I would. I lived in Boston at the time, and we would drive like 15 hours straight to go to the show, stay the weekend, go around Quebec, go or somewhere else on the way back, maybe.
Montreal's
And then,
great though. It's
oh
a
yeah,
wonderful place,
yeah.
and delicious too. Lots of great food, as with Toronto as well. So
True, true. Great coffee, Quebec. I salute your coffee shops. Before Brooklyn really knew what a good coffee was, Quebec was like the best coffee experience I had. This is going back a while, but and then
perfect.
shout out to also like Montreal. Ottawa's on the list. I haven't been out west really, so we'll have to get out west someday. But
Well,
good stuff.
they're okay.
I know. My podcast partner is also from Ontario, and he's like, yeah, he's from the west, and he's like, nah, don't bother.
Vancouver's okay, uh,
Hmm.
but very expensive.
So I've heard.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks again, Mercedes. You rock. I appreciate you.
Hey, no worries. And honestly, anytime you want to chat, you let me know.
All right, then.
I have all the time in the world now.
Good to know.